morning.
Good morning.
All right, you guys, I'm so excited for this episode because whenever we get to introduce a new issue of Learning Well Journal, it just feels like such a, not a weight, but just kind of an exciting thing. Like we're just introducing a new, I don't know, a new friend. And
Yeah.
so today we are pleased to announce the summer issue of Learning Well Journal. We're super excited about this issue. As you're listening to this, if you're listening to this when it first airs, we are taking subscriptions now through May 10th. And those subscriptions, those new subscribers will get this issue. We'll be
Mhm.
mailing them out probably around May 12th. And so new subscribers will get this issue of the magazine. And current subscribers, you'll always get the current issue of the magazine. So get excited for that. This issue, I'm questioning why did we choose this theme? Because it's not something that I'm great at all. But a lot of these things aren't. And sometimes it's like you just are drawn to that thing that you actually really need. And so
Sure.
the theme of this issue is patience.
Hmm.
And we built this issue around Psalm 27:14.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think we know that having children just has a way of sanctifying and forcing patience on us. And we can fight it all we want, but we will be perpetually angry at everyone in our homes if we decide to do that. So we kind of tied that together with the season of summer. And for me, the season of summer is where I really crave slowness. At least that's what I desire to do. So
Hmm.
I I, of course, days can get disordered. They can get way too busy. I can pack way too much in. And then the first thing out the window, typically when I do this, is my patience. And I've realized that a lack of patience in myself is almost always means that I've just put too much on my plate, put too much on my calendar, on my to-do list, on my mind, whatever. And it almost always means that I have subconsciously decided that I can do everything and I can do more than I physically can. So I get frustrated and I lose my patience with, of course, the people that are most important in your life.
Hmm.
So this coming season for summer, my desire is for all of us to just go a little bit slower. And the important things, this is what I've figured out in life, but I never remember until it's too late. But the important things will get done, and so we're just aiming for more patience. And that's why we put together this issue of the magazine. And I think for summer, what I'm desiring is just more, just kind of impromptu dinners and more just soaking up time outside
Hmm.
and maybe just hours outside doing nothing but reading. Um, I think we could all just use a little bit more of this virtue of patience in our
Yeah.
homes, in our families, and even just when we're waiting on the Lord, because that's a big one, is when we're waiting for answers. We can get very impatient and
Mm.
kind of forget that sometimes God's pace feels like it parallels a child's pace. And it's just not fast enough for us, and we can get really
Mhm.
impatient with that. And so, um, we that's kind of the crux of the summer issue, and I'm really excited about it. I hope that it kind of hits home for a lot of us, and that we can really pack things away and remember, like, kind of as our roles of as moms, that God put us in the place that we are to, to love on our kids and to not try to rush the things that just do take time. And
Mhm.
so we're going to go through kind of some of our favorite parts of this issue, or just some that we think that are fun to talk about. And so we're going to do
Mhm.
that now. We're going to kind of go through the different sections of the magazine and talk about some of the articles that we think that you guys will be excited about too. So, Annie, why don't you start and I don't know, just kind of share some of your favorites from this issue.
Sure. Yeah, this was a fun issue. And again, just something I think that all of us struggle with at times. I think it's funny because I don't know about you, but I get a lot of when people talk to me about homeschooling that aren't homeschooling, that aren't
Yeah.
even asking, they're not even asking like questions because they're looking into homeschooling. I think it's almost a response. I don't know if there's I guess I don't really know what the root of it is, but I get a lot of I could never do that. I'm not patient enough. And it always kind of just it bugs me a little
Yeah.
bit because and I've told people before, God did not bestow upon me like some like supernatural natural or huge amount of patience that he didn't give you. I don't have more patience than you do. While I do think it might come easier to some people, I wouldn't even describe myself as that way. I don't think patience comes easy to me. I think it's actually um, quite difficult for
Yeah.
me. I can
Yes.
very easily fall into the
Same.
attitude of like, why is this hard for you?
Right.
Just do it. Like I don't understand. And so like it's just a work of sanctification. Like it's just one of those areas that I know that I need help in. And so I'm constantly, asking God to sanctify me in that area. Like I don't want to be an impatient person with my kids or my husband or my friends or anybody, like the grocer. I don't want to be impatient. And so I just think it's something that we all can struggle with. And so this was just such a fun issue to do in that respect. I felt encouraged by
Right.
a lot of the articles, but so we did. You had mentioned the scripture. We based it on Psalm 27:14, which says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord," and um, just such an encouraging verse in a culture that wants what we want when we want it. We are so accustomed to just getting all the things when we want them. And then when we're forced to be patient about something, it really kind of shows our true colors, I think. So,
So
um,
true.
yeah, when
Ooh.
I think kind of right, our main kind of faith article in this issue was written by our friend Paige. I think her handle is on the Cove Homeschool. Does
Yep.
that sound right? She's wonderful. And she homeschools her kids in Canada, and she is just a really sweet gal. And she wrote an article titled Standing Firm, Unmoved by the Unknown. And I found it so, I guess in a lot of ways, this issue feels really appropriate. I don't know that there's a time that it's not appropriate, but if any time it feels more appropriate, it does kind of feel appropriate right now for our
Mhm.
like current culture, I guess, because a lot of things feel unknown, I
Right.
guess. And there is that, I think people are struggling in things that maybe have felt secure in the past that don't feel secure anymore.
Yeah.
And so I really loved her take on this, but I was just going to pull one little example out of her article that was an example that she used from John MacArthur, one of his messages. And he was talking about the word patient in Romans 12:12, which is rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. And uh, he described Christians like being like an olive being squeezed in an olive press, and how we should have the ability to remain under great pressure without succumbing. And it's honestly convicting,
Yeah.
because there are days like I think I text you more than anybody about like feeling like I want to crawl in a hole because
Hmm.
I do. Like I just feel like I can't, at certain times or with certain things that are going on, you're like, I can't take anymore. Like I'll literally just like crawl in a hole or a bunker and homeschool my kids and,
I
you
know.
know, just
Yeah.
call it good. But it's convicting to hear like we should, because of the hope that we have, like we really should be the ones that are like standing under that great pressure and not succumbing to all of the fear, all of the, you know, uh, uncertainty, because we have a certain hope. And you know what I mean? And so I just thought I really liked that example that she gave in there. The whole article is wonderful, but yeah, I really was convicted by that one for
Hmm.
sure. So, um,
That's so good.
yeah. Yeah. In addition to hers, we have a lot of really like super fun articles. I thought I'd bring up just to kind of kick some of them off. You and I worked on a huge article
Oh my gosh. You guys are
that
going to
is,
love this article.
It
If
is
you
so
don't love this
fun.
article, we will be very sad.
Disappointed.
Because I'm like,
Absolutely.
wait, this is such a good article. Okay, you say it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we had this
Not that
idea
it's
of
good
like,
because we wrote it, but because
no,
it's good because there's just so much fun stuff. And
yeah,
you'll
it
see.
is.
You'll see.
It's an article that gives 50 field trips. So one field trip in each state. And
Mhm.
we really tried hard to like, and I think even in the intro, I think you wrote the intro to this, but you talked about how every state has like, well, I mean, I don't think every state has a national park, but we're
Right,
not
right,
talking about like the big vacation destinations or like the things that you're doing as a family that are like, I mean, you can't go through Yellowstone in a day, you can't.
right,
I mean, I guess you could go picnic in an area or whatever, but we're not talking about those. We're talking about kind of the little, like smaller, maybe lesser known, or maybe not even lesser known, but yeah, maybe you're traveling through a state and you don't realize that this exists in this state. And so we
right,
really tried to find those. We polled a few different, I think both the Learning Well and your account months ago to kind of see what people, if they had suggestions. And so we took those and then some of our own experiences and then just did a little bit of Googling as well to find like just some cool places. And it's long, like it took
right,
several pages and
right.
it
I
was
think it's
fun,
like
but
10 pages. And I think
yeah.
like the idea behind it, so when you're reading the article, like the idea behind it is if you had an afternoon with your kids and you were like, what can we do that is just fun, different? We need a little break from just the regular routine. Let's go do a field trip
Mhm.
or something that you would suggest to your homeschool group. Hey, we should go on a field trip here. Like, think where would Mr. Rogers go if he was in a certain state, right? Like
Sure.
that was kind of my thought behind it. And you know how you always used to go to factories and watch the crayons be made or
Hmm.
saxophones or whatever. I love
Yes.
those so much.
Yes.
This is sort of a tribute to that. So I don't know. We maybe say a couple?
Well, yeah.
So we each took 50 states or 25 states and you know, Annie worked on half and I worked on half, and we were
Hmm.
like texting each other, like, oh my gosh, we should go to Utah. We should go to Tennessee. We should go to
Yes.
this. This would be so much fun. And I know
Yeah.
I chose the one for Tennessee, and you guys are going to think this is so weird. And there's so many fun things to see in a state like Tennessee, right? Like there's, all kinds of fun things. But when we lived in North Carolina, we went on just a Sunday drive, and about an hour from our house, we discovered was the Bush Bean Factory.
Mm.
And it's so random. It's so weird. But I was
It
like,
is random.
it's kind of in the middle of this windy road, if I remember right. And we were like, oh, it's the Bush Bean Factory. And we pulled over. We saw that you could just do tours and there was a little cafe there, and the tour was so much fun, and so that's on the list. So
Yeah.
think Bush Bean Factory,
Exactly.
but in like the
Just
funnest way possible. This
right.
can be fun, I think.
Yes. Yeah. There were so many. We came away from this and we're like, oh my gosh, how do we do a giant like 50 state road trip and go visit all of these things? I took Oregon because I've spent most of my adult life in Oregon. But one of the places that went a couple different times, our entire family, that was just so fun is the fossil beds in appropriately named Fossil, Oregon. And they are like right up behind the high school in Fossil, which is the tiniest town. Like there's nothing there truly but fossil beds and a few people. But anyway, you go up there and you just like get to dig out of the side of this hill and find all of these really cool fossils. And
So
I mean,
fun.
you can spend hours there. Um, and so we would like pack a picnic lunch and go and then chisel out fossils for several hours and then marvel at your finds and just fun things like that. But yeah, there were so many really cool places that I really wanted to visit. I'm trying to think of another one. Do you have another one that you Oh,
Um,
the Tabasco factory in
right. That looked
Louisiana?
fun. Yes, in
That
Louisiana.
looked
Like so
so fun.
perfect. So perfect. There was a really
Yes.
old, guitar factory, maybe in Pennsylvania?
Yep, I
Is
remember
that
that one.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
looked really fun. And then the other one that I actually really wanna do is, Hammond's Candy, which I love Hammond's Candy. You see it
Yeah.
sometimes in cute toy shops and stuff like that. They have a factory that you can visit in Denver, Colorado, and
Mhm.
that looked fun.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot in here, and even tried to find out with a couple of these. I do remember seeing like on websites that there were certain things that were free, and so we tried to
Right,
include that in the description if it was something that was free, or maybe particular days of the week that they did have better deals or whatever. So um, I don't know. I think it's one of those things, and we try to make every issue something that's like very evergreen, that
right,
you don't want to throw away your copy, you want to keep it because this would be such a good reference, if you are doing a family trip that's going to go through some states and you're not really sure, um, what there might be to do, then hopefully you can take a look at it and see if it's somewhere along your path. But yeah, that was a really fun article to work on. I
right.
liked that one.
And last summer, I think it was last summer, we did 3 epic homeschool road trips, and
Mm,
that was a super fun summer article too, but this is
yeah,
very different. Uh, and actually, I think that we have a few summer issues from last year left. So if you're just finding us, I think you
fun.
can find those on the website.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that was such a fun one to work on.
Hmm.
And I will say one that I loved from this article or from this issue was my friend Jamie Erickson, who is just getting ready to graduate her second, uh, just like me, actually. And she wrote an article about um, just kind of the idea of being patient with your teenagers, with your middle schoolers, your teenagers, as they're kind of finding their path and finding
Hmm.
their way. And so I know a lot of our readers have teenagers or going into the high school years, and that was just such an encouraging one, I think, to just,
Hmm.
just to be patient with them because it's just a lot to know all the things. And we do have a lot of
Yeah.
pressure from the outside world. I think, like, you look at, kind of the mainstream government school system, and it just seems like we're supposed to all kind of be in this pipeline of,
Hmm.
school to college to knowing what we're going to do forever. And then I think it just really sets a lot of kids kind of on this, I don't know, trajectory of just either feeling like, well, I'm never going to, I'm never going to actually do all these things that I think I'm supposed to do.
Hmm.
Or they kind of get into an area that they were never really called to be in, but it was just kind of what was told to them that they should do. And so
Yeah.
anyway, just the whole idea and really good encouragement on just helping teens find their way without and being patient with that process. You
Hmm. Hmm.
know, so it was really relatable to me, I think, at my current stage. And um, hopefully it's something that people can kind of file away and remember when things like later in high school, when things get really um, I don't know, like that pressure just really starts to come down and you feel like, "Oh my
Right.
gosh, like we haven't done this yet. We haven't done this yet." And I think also it was relatable for me just because I feel like with my son that's graduating this year, we did do some things later. Um,
Hmm.
we didn't do college visits until this spring. And
Hmm.
I mean, he didn't really know he wanted to go to college until like later into the school year this year. And so I thought, "Oh my gosh, I have, like, screwed everything up, and, like, we should have done all of this already," and it's all kinda coming together, and it's all gonna work out, and so,
Yeah.
anyway, it was just encouraging to me, especially, I feel like, for this season, and I hope that other parents can kinda read that and be encouraged that you don't have to know
Yeah.
everything, and your kids don't have to know everything right now, and just to be patient with that process.
Like a tall order to ask
It
18-year-olds,
is.
some 17, to decide, a path that will lead them to what they want to do for the rest of their lives. It's a lot. It's
Right.
a big decision, and I think they definitely feel the weight of it. And um, especially guys, I feel like,
Yeah.
because they're, likely going to be the breadwinners of homes, and they want to make the right decisions. They don't want to go into something, and realize I don't want to do this for the next 30
Right.
years or whatever, sometimes more. So, yeah, it's a tall order. So, it was a good article, really good. She always has such good advice. She speaks with a lot of wisdom, I feel
She
like.
does.
Yeah.
She does. I love Jenny.
Yes. I also thought we had Nikki Truesdell, who's written
Yep.
for us a couple of times. She wrote a really good article on just simplifying education, your
Yeah.
education at home, and how she kind of went through like all of the different subjects and gave some thoughts on how to simplify those subjects so that we're not trying to. I think honestly, like her main idea was like not replicating public school at
Right.
home. We're simplifying it for a reason and understanding that when you take your kids out of school, or maybe you never put them in, but you're the one in charge. And she's always really big on how education doesn't have to take 12 years. Certainly when it's in the home, it shouldn't need to take 12 years. Um, so I thought that was a really good article, and I loved some of her ideas on how to go about some of these subjects. So um, I always think she's second generation homeschooler too,
Yeah,
so
she
she
is.
has just a lot of wisdom when it comes to homeschooling and what that should or just can look like. I think it's so easy for us to get burned out thinking of all of the things or trying to accomplish um teaching all of the things to our kids. It's a lot. And she's encouraging in explaining how that can look without going crazy. So I
Right.
loved that one. I thought it was really good.
So encouraging, and I think that that was the first article that I ever read of Nikki's. That's how I found Nikki. I was doing something and I found like her blog, but it was the article, "It doesn't take 12 years to educate a
Hmm.
child," something like that. We can link that in
Yeah.
the show
Yeah.
notes here because it's so good and so encouraging. And I think that I asked her to write an article kind of around this topic under the umbrella of patience because it is something that I'm seeing kind of more and more as more people begin homeschooling, which I think is really good. I am seeing, and you can speak to this too, but I feel like I'm seeing more people that are kind of looking for, and not everybody, but more, I think, kind of with this new, kind of, I feel like we're kind of getting, well, I'm kind of getting towards the end. I've been homeschooling now for like 16 years. And so now the kind of newer moms coming up feel much younger than me. And kind of the mentality is different than kind of what I was taught. And no, there's not just one way to homeschool. There's many ways to homeschool, but kind of the
Mhm.
trend that I'm seeing is kind of this idea of just tell me what to do. Um, like sitting and searching through books is just not, it's just not seeming to be like what people are wanting to do, or
Mhm.
kind of having that patience of just, finding the right thing. Like they just kind of want to schedule. And a lot of people I've talked to, maybe not a lot, but a number of people I've talked to are just kind of getting curriculum from the school. So their kids aren't physically at the school, but they're still doing all of the really not great
Mhm.
government school curriculum. And which is all kind of created to teach to a test. And so it's just not not what I mean, we have so much, like we have so much more available to us. It's like
Mhm.
don't put yourself back into that box, the thing
Mhm.
you just took yourself out of. So, I don't know, just kind of this idea of like, just tell me what to do and, let me just, follow somebody else's plans. Well, um, I think this does require a lot of patience to kind of be able to find your stride and figure things out and kind of plug along until you kind of become more confident in homeschooling because for a
Mhm.
lot of us, it is a very new idea. And so the reason behind asking Nikki to write an article like this is just to kind of help moms to understand like this is it's normal to kind of feel overwhelmed at times, but it's okay. Like
Mhm.
you're probably making it harder than it needs to be because that's
Mhm.
what we all do.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a total it's a total mind shift, and I know, like,
yes,
I feel like that kinda gets thrown around a lot, but it is because we've all been so conditioned. I mean, we've been in the public school mindset for decades, and so, um, it's just it's hard to wrap your mind sometimes around homeschooling as a lifestyle, and
right,
that's not meant to sound like fluffy or we all like nature walk all day, and that's not meant to sound that way, but it really is supposed to be like the heart behind homeschooling. I feel like is a lifestyle and not so much like a checklist of things that need to get done, although there are things that need to get done. So it's like a really trying to
right,
find the balance. I know it can be difficult, but there is, going back to the patience thing, is that it does really require a lot of patience, because I can't tell you how many, and I'm sure you've done this too, but you try something, you might try a particular curriculum or an idea in your homeschool, and you're like, well, that failed. Like, that's not
right.
that's definitely not my kids way of learning, or they really did not enjoy that process or whatever. But understanding, like, that doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that your homeschool's a failure. You just try something new the next year, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with sometimes things not working and just switching it up. But I also think that's one of the beautiful things about homeschooling, is that you don't have to, like, you can switch it up even mid-year.
Yeah,
But being okay with that and being patient in that process, because every home is different, and a lot of times within that home you can have every kid that's different. And um, I think realizing and coming to terms with the fact that you're the one in charge, and you
hmm,
can you can like cater each kid's education exactly how it works for them. um, and yeah, it doesn't have to be. I agree with you. Like, I feel like I might have been like on the cusp of maybe that, or right at the, I don't know where I fall with the homeschoolers, but I definitely remember when I started homeschooling, home a presence on social media was really not much of a thing at all. There were very few. In fact, that's how I found you. I reached out to um, a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in years. I just knew um, from, I think, following her on social media, maybe or I found that she had a blog or something. I can't remember, because I wasn't on Instagram at that time. Anyway, I had asked her, what do you do for homeschooling, and is there any place that you look for inspiration? And she sent me you and your blog, and that was so many years ago. And there just wasn't the kind of presence that now I feel like you get on social media, on Instagram, and it's like you can find a ton of people sharing their homeschool life. And I love that. I mean, we do that on Learning Well. Like,
sure.
we intentionally every day, there's one going on right now as we speak, every week we share somebody who's homeschooling so that you can gain ideas and encouragement and inspiration. um, but it almost can be overwhelming too, and having that mentality of needing to have your homeschool be like the next person can be really detrimental, I think. So Nikki's article just really talks about how you're in charge. You're the parent. You're the
Yeah,
one that gets to set the tone, set the stage, and all the things. So it was good, very encouraging, in my opinion.
I know. It's almost like we should encourage new homeschool moms to just not be on social media for like a
Yeah.
year. Your first year of homeschooling, don't do any social media. Just
Yeah.
have phone calls, or I think reading blog posts and things like that are probably fine, but just kind of this constant barrage of
Hmm.
do this, buy this, look at this beautiful flat lay. This is what homeschool looks like. And then you look around and you're like, oh, really? Then my house is a total dump because it looks
Yeah.
nothing like this. That's very
Yeah.
serene and beautiful, and everyone here is crying.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think, just kind of keeping that all in perspective. I do, I do kind of worry just about all of the just influencing that goes on out there because it's like, is it all good? Are these all good influences that we should be kind of allowing? I
Mhm.
think that we should all probably follow like one person, two people, three people,
Mhm.
and really keep that circle small because you can really get kind of in a twit about, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And then it feels very defeating because you're one person, but you're following
Mhm.
12 people that are telling you to do different things.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
impossible.
Yeah.
So, just having patience with the process and read Nikki's blog post and read Nikki's article because
Mhm.
they're just so good. And she has so much
Yeah.
wisdom and she's raised, I think, 5 kids.
I
And
don't
I think
know.
she's still homeschooling some, but
Mhm.
um, she's she's got a lot of wisdom. So,
Yeah, she
um,
does.
yeah. And then we also focused on I know this might seem weird as like a tie-in, but it makes sense. If you really think about it, it makes sense. But we have a few articles in here just on baking bread and
Mm.
just the the patience that's required when you're
Mhm.
doing not just baking bread, but like lots of things in the kitchen or in the home
Mhm.
that women used to not have all the conveniences that we have in the grocery store. Just go buy the thing. You know, we used to make a lot more of
Mhm.
the things that we now buy, and bread is one of those. And so, just
Mhm.
kind of the process of, you know, the time that it takes, the patience that it takes. Sometimes you have to throw a whole, bowl of dough away and start over because for some reason it
Mhm.
failed and you have to be patient with yourself. So you, Annie, wrote just
Mhm.
about, I don't know, just kind of the patience and the art of bread making or bread baking in general, which
Mhm.
was really good. And then to kind of piggyback off of that, you did a really fun article on breads around the world, which
Mhm.
is so fun. So you have like non bread and you have English muffins, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talked about several. I think there's only a couple of photographs in there, but
yeah,
soda bread.
yeah,
What else did I put in there? Baguettes, babka. Um, yeah, all kinds of just really uh, fun breads that maybe you haven't tried before, or I don't know, maybe you're getting tired of the same old loaf of bread that you learned to make. But even I make bread all the time, and I don't do all of these all the time, but I just learned how to make focaccia. My mom came for
oh,
Easter
fuck,
and she showed me
yeah,
how to do focaccia, and that was really fun. So yeah, just kind of being more adventurous maybe with your bread making. It does seem, I don't know, I do think maybe it probably seems like a weird tie-in, but this was kind of my idea because we did several years ago with our character curriculum. When we studied patience with the kids, one of the activities was to teach them or to make bread. And I thought, when I saw it, I was like, actually, that actually makes a lot of sense,
yeah,
because I think it's why so many people give up on it, because it does require a lot of patience. Like, you can't go, man, a really warm, like slice of fresh
right.
out of the oven bread sounds so good right now. I'm going to do that and have it ready for dinner.
Hmm.
Like, you can't do that an hour before dinner. It
No,
just requires even the most simple breads. I mean, there's probably a pretty simple bread that you could do kind of quickly. But for the most part, bread just requires more forethought than that. And then the patience in letting it do what it's supposed to do to get it to be like a decent bread.
right,
Um, and I think uh, it does test your patience, especially if you're trying to get good at it, or if it's something that you're wanting to do more often for your family. It really does test your patience. And
Mhm.
I think I put in there about how this last year, I had taken on this whole challenge to like make all of our bread. My KitchenAid mixer broke twice.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
thought I literally was going to die because I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to like keep going with this? Making bread for a family of five, like all the bread products, not just like a loaf of bread, when I have no mixer. Like, I mean, I know they used to do it this way, but I don't want to do it this way. It sounds way too hard. And I just was like not willing to give it up. And so, and I didn't have the funds to buy a new mixer. So my husband was like basically taking it apart, troubleshooting what was going on with it, ordering parts. Then I was having to wait for him to have the time to fix it. And it took a long time, both times that it broke. And
So you had a another layer of patience.
another layer of patience, but it really was like as I was, because I didn't that whole process, right, takes away you still have to knead the dough for that long, but you're not doing it. Like you can literally walk away from the
Sure.
mixer and do something else. Where with this I had to take it out and I had to like stand there at the counter and knead my dough for 10 minutes, and it was, I wasn't happy about it. But as I was doing it, I actually was like, this is really, there's something about it. And I don't want this to sound like woo woo or anything, but like there is something about it that really connects you with your food. Does that
Right.
sound weird? Does it make me weird?
No.
It's just, there's something about it, about the like standing there and like feeling. And, when you start the kneading process, your dough is like shaggy and like
Right.
just weird. And by the time you're done after 10 minutes, it's like this smooth, elastic, perfect ball of dough. And it just like it connects you to the food that you are eating in a
Right.
very odd way. So anyway, I found it very character building. I still do many times, and I I have to be like, I have to remind myself of that. Even when my KitchenAid is doing the mixing, I do feel like um, I have to remind myself that this is like it's a good thing to wait for this. Like
Mhm.
good things come out of waiting. So that was the point of.
So true. So good. Like such a good, I don't know, object lesson on
Mhm,
truly, a lesson in patience. So
mhm. Yeah,
it's
for
so
sure.
good. So good.
Yeah,
I mean, we could talk about so many.
yeah.
We have a super fun afternoon unit study. Every issue, so let me just recap of kind of what each issue looks like. Each issue, everything in the issue falls under kind of the categories of home, homeschool, faith, and family. So every article, I can't. Every issue has recipes. Every issue has we
A
do
day in the
a
life.
day in the life. Thank you. So, another homeschool mom to kind of walk you through her day and how she does homeschool. We have seasonal ideas that fall under just the season that we're in. Oh, this one has a fun one. We did some really fun. Oh my gosh, my kitchen was insanely messy, but we did a really fun article on s'mores and just kind of leveling up your s'mores and
Mhm.
some really fun ideas for that. I kind of got going with that and I was like, oh, another one. Oh yeah, I could do this. Oh yeah. And I was like, okay, we gotta stop. This is
They
a
look
lot.
delicious.
Right. And I was taking like for some of the photos, I was like, I need a bite out of this one. And so I was like, I can't take one more bite of sugar. So I was like, children, someone take a bite of this. And it didn't
They
ask
weren't upset,
I
I'm
didn't have to
sure.
ask very many of them.
Yeah.
Um so we always have just kind of some fun seasonal ideas. And then we always do some seasonal favorites. And that would be like what have we done in the past? Like favorite homeschool things that you need for your homeschool.
Mhm. Did
Um
cleaning supplies.
cleaning supplies. And then this month we have, or this season we have like favorite things to put in your pool bag.
Mhm.
So that was fun to put together. And then we always do an afternoon unit study that you always write, Annie. And so we'll just take a picture book and then Annie will build, just a recipe, a little craft, and some activities and some little questions to kind of go around the book. And
Mhm.
so this one, I love this book because it's such a fun
Mhm.
series. And am I saying
And
this right? It's called A Butterfly is Patient.
yes, and
Yeah.
so beautiful. Like, the
It's
illustrations are
so
gorgeous.
beautiful. And they
Yeah.
have this series has one on eggs, or
Mhm.
nests maybe. Um,
I think it I think it's an egg. An egg is quiet.
an
Isn't
egg
that
is
what it is?
quiet. There's
Thought it
a
was.
rock. There's one on rocks. It's such a great series to add to your home
Mhm.
library for your nature study, your nature table. They're just such great books. So
Mhm.
Annie built an afternoon unit study on that. And then we always have an article written by a homeschool dad for other homeschool dads. So
Mhm.
that's always included. And then we always have book reviews and we always include something on teens. And so like we
Mhm.
had on today, Jamie Erickson writing about being patient with teens finding their way. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like the categories that we fill in for each issue. And it's just so much fun to put together.
Mhm.
And I'm just always amazed and thankful for the men and women, the homeschool moms and dads that just are so gifted in their areas and like just so thankful for them sharing, their talents with us and with our
Yeah.
readers. And so, I mean, there's so many more that we could go into. But I think we'll wrap it up and just wait
Yep.
for you guys to get this issue. We cannot wait. But just as maybe a little teaser, we have barbecue recipes for summer. We
Mhm.
have some tips on summer entertaining and why you should be entertaining this summer and
Mhm.
what that can look like. Um, the the idea of preschool and what you actually need for preschool
Mhm.
and doing math in the kitchen with your kids. I mean, there's just so much good content in this
Yeah.
issue. Everyone is good, but always, I think the current one is our favorite one. So,
Mhm.
um, this is this summer's issue. We cannot wait for you guys to get your hands on it. And like I said at the beginning, order or subscribe, I should say, by May 10th to get this issue in your mailbox, end of May, beginning of June. So,
Mhm.
and then we always end each episode of the podcast by sharing something that's on our currently list. So, something we're reading, something we're doing, something we're eating. And today, I hate to do this to you, Annie, but today our currently question is what is something that you are currently having to show patience for? Ugh,
Mm.
sorry.
How do I choose?
I know.
No. Um,
How long do we have?
no, for this one, I think what I like overwhelmingly, it's just patience in God's timing about, I guess, our life circumstances or plan. I don't
Yeah.
know. Um we've had this plan, our plan,
Yeah.
my plan and my husband's plan, um, for what feels like just years now. I mean, probably going on a decade at this point. And it's just, when we took the step 4 years ago to move out here to South Dakota, that was part of the plan. And I think I don't know if I should speak for Aaron with this, but I think for both of us, we felt like the plan would accelerate a little faster than it
Yeah.
has once we got out here. And it just hasn't. And it just kind of feels like we're still, I mean, that we've had some steps in that direction, but I guess just some days it feels like, okay, should this not be the plan? Because it's taking a long time. And um I don't think it's that. Like, I think it is still because it's a worthy plan. It's not like,
Hmm.
it's not bad or anything, but um I think just resting and knowing that God's timing is just very rarely the same as ours. And so um we're just trying to be patient and knowing that, like, working towards it is still smart. Um but we can't sit here and let ourselves get, like, overly discouraged. I mean, there are moments that we have, like, some discouragement or whatever over situations, but sitting in that, like, does nobody any good and actually doesn't move us forward in the plan either. So
Hmm.
Just trying to be patient in that and not sit around. What I want to do some days is like having a pity party about it. So just real honest. Some
Yeah.
days I'm like, that's not fair. Anyway, so
I
just
never say this as well as it's properly written, but I think it's a quote by Helen Keller, who said that we should be thankful for what we have while we're waiting for the things that we want. And I'm
mm,
not saying that exactly correctly. She has, whoever, if it, I'm hoping I'm attributing to the right person, but I think that it was supposedly her quote. And
mhm,
I'm not saying it as well, but I think that just the idea is good. Like we can be thankful. I think you can do two things at once and you can be thankful for where you're at while you
mhm,
are waiting for kind of that thing that you've been praying for.
mhm,
And I would say that mine is kind of similar. We've had big questions for several years now on, just big life decisions, and we have never felt like we've gotten kind of a real clear vision or a real clear answer,
mm,
um, or just a real clear, step in the next direction. And so we've always kind of been like, well, okay, maybe, maybe we're not praying for the right thing, but it feels like it's the right thing.
mhm.
Um, just so kind of like, I don't know, because I also think that, you know, we want to practice prudence. We don't want to be just being rashly making decisions. And so, especially when they're really big decisions. So that's
Mhm,
mine too, kind of on a macro level of just big life decisions that we're just not sure on
mhm.
and waiting for, answers on those. And then sometimes I'm like, well, kind of like what you're saying, is a non-answer the answer? Is that the answer then? Is
Yeah,
no the answer? Because
right.
I can handle that. I just want to know. It's
Is
hard
that the
sometimes
answer?
when there's just
Yeah.
not a clear cut answer because then I feel like you're leaving so much room for human interpretation, and I don't want big questions like
Mhm.
this to be left to myself and my husband's, human interpretation. I want like God to
Right.
make it very, very clear
Mhm.
as to what we're supposed to be doing. So, anyway, that's kind of the macro
Yeah.
patience requirement. And then on just kind of a more micro level, just as we are recording this, my senior, just kind of his next steps and just kind of being patient. Again, back to Jamie, like we've presented, I shouldn't say we've explored together as a family lots of
Mhm,
different opportunities and lots of different ideas for him. And so we've kind of, given him lots of our thoughts and hopefully some wisdom there. And we've kind of passed it over to him. And then every Sunday, we're just kind of sitting down again, seeing where he's at, talking through things. And also, again, just kind of waiting. We've given him kind of a deadline, like we probably really should make a decision by this date.
mhm,
And so we're just kind of waiting to see kind of what, you know, God shows him and, kind of what we've just been praying for a clear vision, of what God wants for him. And,
mhm,
that's what we've prayed over him and just waiting to
mhm.
see what is decided there. But yeah, waiting is not easy.
No,
That's
it's
the thing.
not.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. No matter if it's a big thing or a small thing, it's a really, really hard one.
Mhm,
But again, I do think like there is so much wisdom in that quote of just um, being thankful for exactly what you have because it's really hard. We've talked about this on the podcast so many times. It's really, really hard to hold kind of these feelings of resentment and anger and
yes.
all the things. It's really hard to hold that and gratefulness, thankfulness at the same time. It's very
Yeah,
difficult. So if we're just
agreed.
kind of like praying for the next thing that we do desire, um, while we are being thankful for what God's already given us, I think that's a really good
Mhm.
posture to have.
It is. I
Very easy
agree.
to say it,
Yeah.
very hard to practice it.
Very hard to
And
practice it. Yes.
so, yeah,
But we try.
I mean, I know what you're waiting for. You know what I'm waiting for. And
Mhm.
we'll just see what God does, you know?
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
exciting and also nerve-wracking and also exhausting sometimes. But I don't know. As
For sure.
moms, this is what we work for. And so to just be patient with ourselves and our own sanctification and then our kids who are learning things that sometimes take forever and it feels like, why can't you just get it
Mhm.
already, you know?
Mhm.
And but anyway, I hope this was encouraging to you guys. I hope that maybe and I hope you kind of hear our voice in this. Like we are not, we have not arrived. I don't know if Annie, you and I will ever be able to say, you know what? I have mastered patience. I have got this down.
No.
I
No,
don't.
definitely not. I
I
feel like
don't
one of the
know.
the least patient people. I feel like I
I
have
know.
mostly impatience with I might be more patient like with my family and my kids, but where it really is like a rub for me is other people. And I hate to
Hmm.
admit that because I want to be like that doesn't show Jesus to anybody, but my
Right.
impatience is mostly with just like
Hmm.
other people.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, and I don't like that about myself. So it's definitely something that I am constantly working on.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you. So anyway, we're right there with you, you guys
Mhm.
that are like, I have no patience. Yeah, neither do we. So
Yeah,
we're all in this together.
that's right.
So, all right, you guys, don't forget in your daily life, in your patience quest, to
Mhm.
just do the next right thing. And we will see you guys in 2